Hello, everyone. This is our lesson two, no, chapter two, lesson two of our discussion. So, the previous part that we had was about freedom and morality. We talked about the relationship between freedom and morality. This time, we're going to be talking about culture and morality. No? So, please lend me all your ears and eyes so that you can at least decipher my discussion this time, no? Now there has been a lot of conceptions on the relationship of culture and morality. Morality the is morality really the driving force in honing and in molding our culture, or our culture is the ones molding and developing our morality, no? So which is which, that's the question, no? So do not worry, I'm going to discuss this very quick so that you'll not get bored. So this is the lesson two of our discussion for this week. There has been a debate, or what you call that, a conflict of ideas between anthropologists and philosophers on the culture and morality, because philosophers insist about the rational foundation of ethics, while anthropologists talks about the interaction between moral ideas and social institutions. Why? Because there has been two conversations running parallel with this particular perception. Anthropologists are confident that they are speaking about the role of culture in human life and societies. Moral philosophers, on the other hand, are sure that they are discussing moral issues. So far, so good between those conversations. But the problem begins when anthropologists turn to the investigation of the morality of a culture, and when philosophers try to account for the role of culture in the formation of morality. The central difficulty has to do with the way the relation between, or the relationship between morality and culture is perceived. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, the problem is more fundamental when one of anthropologists named Mary Douglas assumes that, according to her, it is possible to actually reduce the gap between anthropologists and philosophers if the latter would give up some of their culturally determined views on morality, while accounting for the morality that philosophers I mean, where was I? Culture determined views on morality. Ladies and gentlemen, that is actually true. But it is not just the whole story, no? Anthropologists have difficulties really while of accounting for morality that philosophers speak out. So these are the two conceptions of the relationship between culture and morality. But before we really expound the relationship of culture and morality, let us define first what is then culture. No, there has been a lot of definitions of this word. Even if you're going to search that one in Webster's dictionary, yeah, that dictionary will give you different definition of culture. However, we're going to define culture sociologically, anthropologically, and philosophically. No? Number one, culture is derived from the Latin word cultura or cultus, which means care or cultivation. Culture as cultivation implies that every human being is a potential member of his own social group. He is endowed with certain innate qualities to make use. That means we have the potential. We are all we are all capacitated to be a contributor of our culture in our particular society or social group, no? However, this cannot be developed. If, for example, you cannot develop your inborn talents without the other people. That means you really need to interact with other people within the social group. You need other people who can provide you with the needed opportunities so that you can translate these potentialities or your talents and skills into realities, which is sometimes called as achievements. No, you cannot achieve those potentials. You cannot realize those potentials of yours if you if you don't have other people around you. So you need other people to interact, no? These accomplishments not only help you achieve self-actualization, but also it may help you, it will make you a contributing member of your society, no? Another definition, according to the anthropologist Edward Tyler, he developed one of the classic definitions of culture. He said, culture is a complex whole which includes knowledge, beliefs, law, art, moral, custom, and other capabilities and habits as acquired as a member of um, society. In other words, culture refers to the totality of the humanly created world, from material culture and cultivated landscapes via social institutions. What are those social institutions? Such as political, religious, economic, and others, no? To knowledge and meaning, something that human has created and learned in a society. His theory defines culture in a descriptive term as the complex whole, as it was uttered in this definition, complex whole, that makes up social ideas and institutions. So as you can see, in Tyler's view, culture includes all aspects of human activity, di ba? He said about knowledge, belief, laws, arts, moral, custom, and other capabilities. From the fine arts to popular entertainment, from everyday behavior to the development of sophisticated or very complicated recent or present technologies that we have today. It contains the plan, rules, techniques, designs, and policies for living. On the other hand, I have this. On the other hand, well, that was the definition of an anthropologist, while sociologists would define culture as the entire way of life followed by people and everything learned and shared by people in a particular society. Now, according to some sociologists, culture is a complex set of learned and shared beliefs, customs, skills, habits, traditions, and knowledge common to members of a society. So that depends on these definitions of culture are correct. However, that depends on how you perceive the word based on your own experience. No? So let's proceed with how culture really influences the moral development of the people. Is there any influence with our cultural background to our moral development? So we'll see. Uh, Number one is culture is always social and communal, by which the relationship of people towards one another and their experience as a people are the culture's meadow. It is in this relationship and communal experience that culture influences the moral development of its members. So it is important, ladies and gentlemen, to note that morality as a principle is promoted because primarily of the relationship within the community. Laws and rules and standards of attitude and behaviors, of course, are set and promulgated or created by the community to promote that relationship that binds them together as a people. And culture, as it is being handed down from one generation to another forms, as well as the what do you call that, the morality of that particular generation. Yet the kind of morality may not be absolutely the same with the previous generation due to changes that would inevitable to occur, no? Yon. Second is the culture defines the normative principles and behaviors of the society. It defines which particular principle and behavior that should be kept that would serve the best interest of the community. There would be a what do you call that? There would be a definition on what are the principle and behaviors uh, on what would be the principles and behaviors also that should not be promoted or rejected. This kind of influence of culture in moral development is best seen in terms of a rational level. Again, everyone, it is basic that it is in this relationship within the community, and in their experience of that relationship, that the community would be able to form certain normative principles and behaviors. These defined normative principles and behaviors inform and indoctrinate somehow, no, somehow it will indoctrinate the members as they live and relate with the community. This would shape possibly also the kind of moral judgment a person has, which is most of the time congruent or yeah, consistent with the general moral judgment, no? So that's the second one. The third one is a culture as best exemplified in the experience of the people develops restrictions and sets boundaries and limitations as they live and relate with one another. What are these restrictions, no? These restrictions and boundaries serve as protection among themselves. This would possibly create and what do you call that, an atmosphere somehow of promoting the welfare of the community or for the good of the community as a whole. Indeed, anyone who tries to step beyond this is subject to punishment, of course, or consequences set by the community embedded in the culture. Culture here draws this consciousness into the moral development of its members. Na? Next one is as culture helps in generating the character and identity of its people, it also includes their moral character. Culture conditions the mind, the way people think and the way they perceive the world, and their relationship with one another. So henceforth, a culture which characteristic is possibly aggressive tends to be aggressive in terms of its relationship with one another or with other cultures, no? Yet, the character that is being shaped by a culture may not always be just and rightful. No, sometimes it may not be just and it may not be rightful sometimes. But a culture, like many others, may shape a character that is unjust and mistaken in the general perspective of of human morality. No, the last one, I think this is the last one. The culture identifies the authorities or the governing individuals or groups. They are the symbol of guidance and what do you call this? Control, no? In many cultures, men are always regarded as the leaders. No, we always see men as the potential leaders of our community or society who oversee the order of the community and give guidance, which is true in a patriarchal society. When you say patriarchal society, like the men are dominant or the men is superior as compared to women. No, that's a patriarchal society through their roles and responsibilities in the community within the given culture. May it be patriarchy or matriarchy. Matriarchy is women is above as compared or superior as compared to men. So patriarchy is for men, matriarchy is for women. Um, what do you call that? Where am I? May it be patriarchy or matriarchy or whatever, people submit themselves to their authorities. So just like in the Philippines, uh, whoever is our leader, no, it may be a man or a woman, we always submit ourselves to them or to our leaders or to our authorities by their very authority as they represent the general populace. No, the members look at them as people who promote and keep the set of rules and laws that govern the community or our community. Their moral judgments are considered essential. Their moral judgment sometimes also considered very important and very significant to us, no? In moral issues of the community. In particular, in domestic level, the parents of a child are the first authorities, 'di ba? In a particular family, our parents are always the authority at home who set and teach the child essential for the moral development of their child, no? So that's the last evidence that culture sometimes most of the time it really influence our moral development. So that is an evidence, no? Evidently, culture is very significant in the development of the human person and in moral development, particularly in moral development in Yeah, particularly. Furthermore, as one would look at it, no, if you try to look at it, culture has a tight grip on the moral development of the people. Culture is the conditioning principle of the moral development of its members. Nevertheless, culture as the principle that surrounds the moral development of the people may not always promote what is good and just for all. It is certain that sometimes, especially in our societies, they're not always promote what is good and just. No, there are always, what do you call that? It is certain that sometimes there are principles also, attitude, behaviors that actually hinder good relationships and sometimes violate the welfare of the others. These are indeed difficult, especially to us who are always seeing our authorities or our leaders as our role models. No, these are really difficult to eliminate immediately in a culture, yet they should be subject to people's discernment that proper changes and modifications have to be done for the sake of the welfare and justice for everybody, especially in our community. No, if justice and fairness is really our norm in our society, somehow people would discern it in a proper way. It will really be appreciated by the people in a particular society, and I believe that all of us human beings are really that grateful if we can see goodness in our society and if we see goodness from other people also who can actually influence of our moral development. So, yun. Now, our next activity is I want you all to again write in a very clean sheet of paper and in your own words, based on your perception and based on your own experience, how culture influence your moral development. For you, how does society influence your moral development? Paano ba nakaapekto yung society mo, yung mga tao sa paligid mo in the formation of your moral development. So, yon. So, thank you everyone for listening to me. I hope you have understood our discussion today. As promised, I'm going to make discussions quick so that you'll not get bored with our discussion. No? Thank you very much and God bless. Please keep in touch with for our next lesson, lesson 3. Thank you and good night. I mean, good day.